for many, the second era of consoles pretty much are summed up with Atari 2600 and with some of its competitors as well, like Intellivision and the ColecoVision. But those machines didn't really have an immediate impact in Europe, and the Japanese machines, which followed in the third generation, took quite a while to get here as well. So we had some machines that were kind of a stopgap in the middle of those eras. And whilst they weren't the most advanced of machines, they also weren't actually that terrible. We picked one up recently at auction. It's in bad shape, but let's see about refurbishing it. Yep, so this is the Hanimex TVG-3000. It's in a bit of ratty shape. We haven't done anything with this yet. It needs quite a clean. And there's a few other things as well, like there's joystick ports on the side, so you see that's a nice normal DIMM socket, whereas this one is like that. Now, it doesn't seem to move particularly, so I don't know if it's meant to be like that. It's one of the things we'll find out when we open it up. Now, there's other examples of this having quite a hard life since before we got it. You see, that's one of the joysticks. It's not meant to be at that angle, and it's meant to have a knobbly end, so to speak. So yeah, that's obviously had something heavy put on it, and is a little bit smashed up there. Apparently he's QC passed, I'm guessing, way before this. So that'll need some work. Now, we do have a power supply for it. It's this, which looks like the ropiest power supply I've ever seen. It's had some cable burn in there as well at some point. So this is just a 9 volt 2 amps out anyway, so we can just replace this with something else. We'll work out what the polarity is and we'll replace it. It's just a 3.5mm jack, just like the 2600. And yeah, it's had the plug cut off, which is kind of odd because in this area the plug was probably screwed in anyway, so you can probably just take it off. That's how it cut off. So yeah, not unusual when you buy things at auction, by the way. Cutting the lead off means that they don't expect you to trust the power supply, and they won't get sued if you do and it goes wrong. Yeah, so it's an interesting machine anyway. This lovely aluminium cover here, nice big Hanimex logo in the middle in case you forget. Yeah, these all relate to the game, so each game has kind of 10 versions. You kind of know the similar thing from similar game machines of the era, and a huge reset button. So yeah, that's that's a nice obvious reset button for you. Now obviously this machine kind of straddled the first and second gen era, but it's not quite first gen. It's listed on several sites as first gen, but it's not really. It's kind of, that would put it in the scope of the original Odyssey, and it's definitely not. So they're here anyway. These are the games. They're in these nice little cardboard sleeves with a plastic casing, or a little bit nasty in there. Ugh, looks like something put in there to die. Yeah, but they're fairly business-like. And you can see there's 4 options on there for 4 different games you can select using those buttons, and different difficulty selections as well, which you can use the other switches to do. So yes, we have 3 games for it. So that one was the stunt cycle. We also have this one, which is road race. And this one, which is plainly a sports title, so probably Pong. Now, like a few of the other machines, like there's lots of machines based around Signetic CPUs, and they're all basically compatible apart from cartridges. This has got a very similar thing. There's a lot of machines that have the same guts inside of this, which is a general instruments chip, but they're kind of rendered incompatible by little tweaks, mostly due to how the cartridges work and stuff, rather than the actual capabilities of the machine. The software is usually compatible. But anyway, let's take a look inside just to see what we're dealing with. Okay, I was just checking we'd released enough of the screws. We have. So anyway, before we open it up fully, we take a look at the back here, because something I obviously missed. It can be powered by batteries. Most of them could of this era. In this case it's 6 C cells, and we have this lovely big silver badge here. We're going to look about how we work out what the polarity is of the power supply anyway, but it doesn't actually tell us in this one. So center pin polarity positive. That's pretty standard for a European machine this time, to be honest. But yeah, licensed by Magnavox, which is interesting. Magnavox is another company that used to make a lot of these kind of clone machines as well, so that is kind of interesting. Sorry, produce these clone machines. They were one of the, let's say, top of the tree of these ones. So interesting that that's kind of looks like that's where this has come from. So interesting. I love a giant silver thing there telling you what channel UHF it's on. Right, so we should now be able to, because all these seem to be designed to go through the casing, so we should just be able to, there we go, kind of moves from the centre. There we are. Oh, there are still, okay, I was hoping that was all going to be joined as one thing, but it is designed to be opened up, which is unusual for this lot. Normally they're short wires or things soldered in weird places, but no, this allows you to hear. It's still lots of stuff soldered in weird places, but it does look like you can remove them to do a proper look at it. So there you go. That's the guts of this thing. So yeah, there's not much to it, because the cartridges of course have quite a lot of the chips and memory on board them rather than on here. So this is indeed very, very simple. Yeah, so a quick scan, these just all appear to be logic chips. So yeah, really the cartridge are the things that are doing all of the work here, like a lot of these machines of this time. Now there's a weird, there appears to be some kind of fluid on the actual board. You can see where the colours are slightly different. It doesn't feel sticky or greasy, which is odd. It doesn't smell fishy, which usually is the sign of electrolytic fluid. These caps all seem to be basically fine. So I wonder what that is. Maybe it's just some kind of cleaning stuff that was on there. Anyway, so yeah, internally this seems fine, but what we need to do then is we need to work out what the polarity of the power supply is. Now we already know it's center positive, but we'll do it just as an exercise anyway. So we will of course need our multimeter, which will be setting to continuity mode. Right, so the first thing to worry about is obviously this is not your standard power lead that we see nowadays. So it's kind of which one of these is actually the positive. I'm not going to trust anything this tells us if we open it up, because who knows what. But we do know that if we touch the kind of the inner side of this thing, there's like a little bit that drops down, and that will be touching one of the inner parts of that, probably the biggest middle part. Oh, there we go. So that's obviously ground, which would suggest that this part here is ground. So if we now check that, oh, well there you go. That's lucky we did check, because I'll get a slightly closer view so you can see what I'm talking about here. It's red wire at the top. I'll try to point to it. There we go, this red wire here. Now it would have been easy to assume that there was a was the live value because it's red, but it's not. That appears to be the ground. Make sure you check this stuff thoroughly if you don't have a decent guide onto what is positive and negative. Just because the colours are one thing doesn't mean necessarily it's going to be correct. Right, yeah, so that would have thrown us completely, because we would have definitely, I would definitely have assumed that would have been live if I hadn't bothered checking. So let's verify that again. So we touch that on that. Yeah, that's ground. This chip, one of the legs back here will be ground, probably this one. Yeah, so there you go. So that is definitely ground. Oh, there are more wires coming from that. You know what? There's one absolutely surefire way of checking, and it's a slightly destructive way, which we try not to do, but I don't really care. This power supply is not going to be used, so it's fine. We're just going to cut the power supply off and work out which is which. We can always put it back, splice it back on if we need to, but I would not trust that power supply anyway, so it's fine. So let's strip these ends. go. So the ends are stripped. So now we can quickly verify. We touch this wire and this one. Right. So the wire with the black strip is connected to the point. Now I would assume that's ground, but maybe it is. Maybe we just misread how that's lined up. And the other one, yep, so the one without the ground one is touching the centre. So all we have to do is put this back in here, in. This is the one with the line. That is definitely ground. Yep, that's ground, ground. I think I'm touching it down there, that's not ground. But if we quickly check this, which is the other cable. Okay, we do not have a short. Those two are indeed ground, right. So where's live? What's the live wire coming from? Oh, this would have been so much easier just take it apart. There we go, it's underneath. Right, found it. Okay. So now we know what the polarity is. Although we did it in the most arse about face way possible, but never mind, doesn't matter. So we've done that anyway. So we now know what the polarity is, and yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to call that part there. I know, it's another multi-part. But this one will only be a couple, so it's fine. And what we're going to do is next time we'll clean this up. We will get a power supply running for it, just a universal one will be fine. And we will test the games out. Now it's RF. So originally, to begin with, we're just going to be using probably my VHS recorder to try and get footage. Or worst case scenario, just recording the screen. But maybe then, at some point, we'll also look at doing find a composite signal for that. It will be slightly tricky due to the way these things work with the cartridges producing most of the data. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. If you really enjoyed the video, please hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video or you have something else to say, then please leave it in the comments below. See you next time.